All right, again, good evening, and thank you all for being here. Before we jump all the way into it, I just want to give a special thank you to all of you. I've gotten messages from a number of you. On behalf of my wife, Kalina, and I just want to thank you for all your prayers and support. As you know, we welcomed our newest daughter, Delilah, on September 13th. She was a month early, and it has definitely been an adjustment. But we appreciate the support and appreciate the staff and the leadership for everything they've done throughout this transition. And, the reason for this whole State of the City address, one could say I might have had a little bit too much time on my hands in between changing diapers, but it really gave me a chance to really reflect and also listen. And I felt like we're at a really critical stage right now in the city, with the election coming up, with the resources we have at our disposal, the decisions that we'll be making over the next few months that are going to impact next year and beyond. I thought it was important to level set. Another piece that I felt was important was there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I thought it was important to make sure not only I shared some accurate information, but also provided a space for people to ask questions so they can get those questions answered directly, what they say, from the horse's mouth. So that's another reason why. And so, I want to start off really with thinking and reflection back of why I was elected. And so beyond, my belief that this was something God called me to do and stepping out there on faith to do this, when I think about what the options we had as a city, we had three options on the table. We had status quo, which was continue the way things are and elect and keep going. You had a candidate that was about to pass and said, hey, if you want to go back to the past, you got a candidate there, or you can elect something that's different, change, and for the future and transformation. And the residents, I believe, elected me to transform the city and be a part of that transformation and bring that out of the city. And so, of course, 2020 was a big punch in the gut. Less than 100 days until our 100-day plan, we were faced with a 100-year pandemic. And a lot of our plans had to get on hold, and we had to reprioritize and focus on survival and making sure people were being fed, getting tested, and being taken care of. But now we're starting to, we turned the corner in 2021. And I think the first part of the year, we were very cautious because we didn't know what our financial outlook was going to be like as a city. In 2020, we were faced with looking at, we were planning for 10 to 20% hits on our general revenue. That never happened. And so we ended up, I believe, with less than 7% loss on our revenue. So we had the largest carryover we've had in over 10 years as a city going into the year 2021. Then you couple that with the American Rescue Plan that provided us an unprecedented amount of resources to make some real transformational decisions. And I feel like now we're at this point where there's a couple things we need to address in order to move the city forward. So again, I'll start with some of the good things that happened in 2020 that I'm really proud of that we got through, and then some of the stuff in 2021. Again, in 2020, I'm very proud of how we stepped up as a city and supported one another. Our response, our serving our seniors. We put over $500,000 in partnership with City Council in the small businesses and helped them stay afloat. So that was huge. And then we also had some big wins. This city has seen a lot of loss over the past several years with the loss of Bendix, the loss of Riddell, that we started to question ourselves as a city. But I think with the decisions that we saw in 2020 with Invacare not only deciding to stay here but expand here, that was a huge win for our city, as well as Crane Aerospace, who's in an industry that was totally disrupted, the travel industry, by this pandemic, still found a way to pivot and grow and expand here in the city. So though, times were tough, we still were able to get some of those big wins in there as well. But again, here we are in 2021. And when I think about the moment we're in right now, what I think about is it's time to get back to transformation. It's time to step away from the status quo. It's time to, and I'll share a quick story. I had the chance this past week, I was going out to this weekend at the South Park Trail. I hope you've been out to the South Park Trail. I had a chance to go out there and was talking to some of the residents out there. And one of the questions she asked, she said, what is one of the biggest challenges you have here in the city of Elyria? and I said there's an obsession with the past. And I said you have a group of folks who have lived here 30, 40 plus years where most of what they've seen has been decline. So they can tell you, remember back in the day when J.C. Penney was downtown and I wasn't here. No, I don't remember those days downtown. Remember when Midway Mall was bustling? Yeah, I do remember those days. But those days are gone. And we have a choice right now to continue to focus on trying to bring back the past or to create a new future, which I think as the city of Elyria, we have a great opportunity to use our past to help us determine our future. You know, we already have the war wounds from retail. We already have the war wounds of neglecting our downtown. And now we see cities creating manufactured downtowns, and we have a beautiful one here, right here in our square. So I feel like we have those sort of war stories that help us to have a better informed future. But the challenge is there's also a bit of a fear of the future, I believe, here in the city. And because we have people who have seen such decline, they've lost hope in a future. They've lost hope that there can be better because all they've seen is, I remember when. And then you got this young guy coming out saying, we can be better, we can do different, let's be innovative, let's try to transform ourselves for the 21st century. And they're like, that sounds good, but there's a lot of skepticism. And so a part of what I think we need to do to address this issue is really trust in the leadership that you've elected. You know, I think a part of not only that you've elected, but the professionals that I have around me, not only from a city staff standpoint, but also from some of the key partners we have here around the city. One of those individuals, I'm glad they're here tonight, Mr. Mike Griffin. So Mike, you can raise your hand here so people know who you are, Mike. So Mike is an Elyria resident. He doesn't serve on city council, doesn't serve on any of our committees, doesn't work for me. But Mike has done multi-million dollar development projects all around this country. And Mike, how long have you lived in Elyria? 30 years. So we have this wealth of knowledge right here in our backyard. And a part of the push and the question is, how are we pulling on Mike? How are we utilizing these resources we have right in our backyard? So I'm excited that Mike has joined the board of the Community Development Corporation that was started to help inform our CDC, which will hopefully inform our city in terms of making those sort of transformational investments that we need to make here in the city. The other key issue I think we need to make sure we address is misinformation. You know, last year, you know, Facebook is an interesting tool. I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's a kind of a neutral tool. It can be used for good or evil. But I think it's important that as a city, we make sure we're always putting out timely and accurate information. If you were to go on there now, you'd think the sky is falling apart. The violence is rampant in the city, and that we're broke as a city. Well, I have some stats for you tonight. So the first is around violent crime here in the city. And this was provided by the police department. So in 2019, so do y'all feel like the crime has increased the past couple of years? In the city of Elyria, I feel like crime has increased. All right, so let's look at some of the stats. So kidnapping, this is horrible to even talk about this stuff like this. Aggravated assault is down. Kidnapping is down. Robbery is down. This is horrible just reading this stuff off, but it's just the reality, and we'll make sure we provide you this data so you can look at this data as well. Weapon law violations are down. And there's been no significant increase in murders. There hasn't been any increase in murders or negligent manslaughter. And so, or non-negligent manslaughter, I apologize. So there's been no increase in these areas. But if you were to look on social media, you'd think the city's on fire. And I will take into account that a lot of cities around the country have seen spikes in violent crime, have seen spikes in murder. But Elyria is not one of those cities. And I think one of the important reasons why it's important for you to have accurate information, not only so that you can feel good about the city that you live in, so that you can counter that misinformation. I was reading, again, I had all this time to, as I'm sitting there, rocking the baby, scrolling on Facebook, I'm looking and I'm seeing people who are identified as leaders still perpetuating misinformation. And it was disheartening because people in the same breath are saying they love the city, but in the next breath, perpetuating misinformation. So I think it's important that we make sure we provide accurate and timely information to make sure our population is informed. And there's two more things, but the next piece is around being more decisive. I feel like we're falling into this trap that is kind of a stereotype of government that'll do a study to study a study to do a study for another study. And I feel like there's certain things that we have to move on. There's certain things that we need to study again, but that's very few, and there's certain decisions that are already on the table that are right in front of us, whether it's, I heard the discussion while I was out around the Cascade, Overlook. There's been a lot of time and effort put into that already. We should move forward with that. There's been a conversation around our traffic management system and having a better traffic management system. We have a grant for it. It's there. There's been, in the previous master plan for the Parks Department, there was a vision and a plan to create an aquatic center. We have the resources to do it. Let's move on it. Let's go. So I think now is also about being more decisive and not overanalyzing things and moving forward. And the last thing I'll say is that it's still about trying to figure out how do we work together and how do we get past political differences. And I know that it's a real thing. I know I've experienced it since I've been here in terms of the challenges of being an independent in a city that has historically been Democrat, and I understand the challenges that has created. But I do believe at the core of every one of our council people, they just care about this city, and they want to see this city move forward. Now, as I said before, got a couple rogue members, or one or so rogue members who have said things in the past that I tried to say, we need to be careful following misinformation. But for the most part, as I met with the council president last week, when we sat down and chatted, I share with him, it's been a pleasure working with him. I want to continue to work with him, and that there's really not anything for us to fight about. So let's not make something up. Let's not create resistance to progress unnecessarily. And a part of what we're committing to do as administration is to continue to communicate, continue to try to over-communicate, but we can't use communication as a guise for not getting things done. To say, hey, because there's a difference between education and communication. Communication is you're trying to provide as much information as you literally can in order to make a sound decision. The folks that we work with, the city staff, whether you think about the engineering department, folks like Mike Griffin, even myself, folks on our team, they come with years of experience in certain domains that unless you take a course, you're not going to be fully up to speed on what these folks know. So there comes a place where you just have to say, all right, we trust the professionals who are operating our city, we trust their recommendation, and we'll verify, we'll hold them accountable, but we'll still move forward. So that's another piece that I wanted to share as well. The other piece of misinformation, I'm sorry, I'm a little out of order, but the other piece of information that I alluded to is this idea of us being broke. And the city is not broke. The city is again, well positioned. I think the finance director in a meeting not too long ago stated this was the largest cash balance he's seen in 35 years. So this idea of crying broke is old. We can't do that anymore. So the real question is, how are we going to invest the resources we have? It should be no longer about if we are or not. It's about what are we going to invest in and what aren't we going to invest in. Some of the things that I've proposed and I'm going to continue to advocate for is investing in our economy. One of the things that I felt we fell short on as an administration that I want to make sure we ramp back up and get to is supporting our entrepreneurs. We have to do a better job of getting more startup businesses here in the city of Elyria, supporting our locals to start businesses. It was exciting to see Elmer's Ice Cream and kind of walking through that journey with them of starting that. But we have to continue to support entrepreneurs. And we learned a lot about how difficult it is to start a business here in the city of Elyria. And kudos to Dawn Calvert and the work she's doing to help with the building department, to help make our processes a lot more smoother for businesses to get started here in the city of Elyria. The other place is continued investment in our neighborhoods. You know, one opportunity we have with this sort of investment, and one piece of feedback I heard from the public was, man, it feels like we just piecemeal things as a city. We do a little bit here, a little bit there, but we never feel that mass transformation impact in the neighborhood. Well, now with these resources we have, and including with the American Rescue Plan, they want to see you target specific neighborhoods. We have an opportunity to identify certain neighborhoods and make strategic investments not only in the roads in those neighborhoods, but in the housing in those neighborhoods and the access to parks in those neighborhoods. Some of the ones that rise to the top are the Wilkes Villa neighborhood and the surrounding area from Colonial Oaks down to Franklin Elementary and down Mussey, that neighborhood. You also have the Chadwick neighborhood, who's had a long, you know, they're kind of on an island out there. How do we create more connectivity between their neighborhood and the rest of the city? And then the Cleveland Street neighborhood, where you have this unique mix of residential and business. That's a great opportunity to create community in that neighborhood. So I think we have an opportunity here, and one of the things I've asked council to do is in specific conversations with Councilwoman Mitchell, who, if you know Councilwoman Mitchell, she doesn't play about her roads. She's serious about these roads. So one of the things I've said to her is, hey, let's go for it. We have the resources to do more and do it sooner. You know, one of the reasons that we're just now seeing the roads being done for this year, they're just starting this week, is because of our process that we have in terms of identifying those roads. And again, I think when it comes time, I appreciate council's process on identifying those roads, but we need to have an additional process that says, all right, in addition to what they've allocated here with this 1.2 or 1.5, we need to allocate another 1.5 to get more roads done and start that process now, so that when we go out to bidding next year, we're not behind several other cities. We're the first on the list to get that done. But that's going to take a change in mindset and a change in process. And I know that's not easy, but it's necessary. So the one piece is around the neighborhoods, other pieces around the economy. And then we have this interesting opportunity with this initiative we created called Ely Life. And so the Ely Life is really an economic development play around tourism. The people come to our city all the time, and our residents are here as well, and wondering what is there to do in Elyria. I constantly, one of the things I kept seeing on Facebook, all right, what can I do? It's so funny. One of the conversations around, where can I go indoors to walk? And where did everybody say? The Midway Mall. It's like, everybody's like, duh, the mall, it'll be a great experience. It was like, yeah, there's some truth to that. But how can we create more opportunities that people enjoy here and the quality of life here in Elyria? One of the opportunities right in front of us is Oakwood Elementary School. The city acquired that as a part of a partnership with the school system and building the new schools. And we have an opportunity to turn that into a senior and youth empowerment center where our seniors can get the programming they need, the youth can get the programming they need. We have a nonprofit organization, Save Our Children, who's already said they're interested, they want to move their operations there. And again, now it's just about being decisive and executing and not constantly looking back and wondering, are we making the right call? And so we're excited about that. And then the last piece I'll say, which we've had conversation on before, is around our brand as a city, our image as a city. And here's where we need our residents to be a part of championing the city. I'm not naive to the problems. If you think, I grew up in one of the toughest neighborhoods in the city. If you've traveled, you're like, Elyria tough. There is no tough neighborhood in Elyria. But comparatively, we're constantly seeing drugs every day, violence, crime. I've seen some warts in the city and still continue to see the warts in the city. And if I can go through what I've gone through in this city, the pain that I've experienced in the city, the loved ones I've lost in the city, and still have hope, what is holding us back from having hope in this city? What is holding us back from feeling like we are just as good as any other city? My call to action for the community is really to not be naive to the problems we have, but not let that be the only focus we have either. To not let that be who defines us. To not let the incidents that happened define us as a city. And that's difficult. That's difficult, but I believe it's necessary. And if, if we're going to progress, and again, I try not to harbor too much on my own story, but had I only focused on the bad things around me, I wouldn't be standing before you here today. So I'm challenging our community to really embrace the blessings in our city, and really help to share that out. We have new staff here. We've welcomed over 40 staff people we've hired in the past 6 to 8 months, and we had a new employee orientation. And a lot of these folks aren't from Elyria, and the most negative feedback they get about Elyria is from Illyrians. And when we ask them, who told you that about Elyria? They're like, oh, it was this person who's lived in Elyria for a while. And we're fortunate that a lot of them are like, man, these people are crazy. That we love Cascade Park. We love Unplugged. We love coming downtown. And it's our residents who are kind of like, not as enthusiastic about it. And again, I understand the context that we're in. People seeing decline, but I'm challenging us to embrace the positives that we have here in the city. The next piece, again, is towards city council, and my challenge to my council members, as I shared before, is for us to lay aside any subliminal or reasonable or this sort of. When I talked with Councilman Stewart, I said, does it just feel like people want us to fight? I said, it feels like people just want us. I said, but we don't have anything to fight about. So why is there this feeling of resistance? And so I'm asking us to be conscious of that people would love to see us fighting. They would love to see quarrel here. It makes for good news, but it doesn't make for progress for the city. And so as the same way that we're trying to extend the olive branch to continue to communicate with you all, we're asking you to do the same with us, that, we're at this thing Monday through Sunday. So our lines are open for questions. We don't have to wait until these meetings to have conversation. We can have them offline. I know many of you call me already, but even when it comes to the staff as well. And again, let's move more decisive with more sense of urgency, because we have an opportunity to leapfrog our development and really surpass our neighboring communities and become one of the best cities here in Ohio. The last piece I'll share with the community as a whole, one of those ways to get involved and engaged is through a hackathon. And I know many of you have heard this, and I just want to give it some context to it. The whole purpose of this is to get your ideas as residents, as council members, as people who are watching our city, to contribute ideas toward our city in terms of progress. And we've identified some areas that you can engage with your ideas. You can go on the City of Elyria's page, click on Hackathon, and we want you to give us your ideas. What ideas for development do you have? And it can be around, and again, we've identified areas that align with our American Rescue Plan funds. I'm going to read those off. So community violence and crime prevention. So what ideas do you have around preventing crime in the city and preventing violence in our city? Submit your ideas on that. Social, emotional, and mental health services. We know that the pandemic has had quite a mental health toll on all of us. And what can we do to kind of restore that mental health? Parks and green space development. We saw a renewed interest in people getting outdoors. So what ideas do you have around green space development and parks development in the city? Entrepreneurship and small business assistance. What ideas do you have around entrepreneurship and developing more small businesses here in the city? Job training. We know the job market is very weird right now with people really reassessing their work, but if you have ideas around that, the American Rescue Plan money is eligible to be used for that. Tourism, travel, and hospitality. That's another space that, again, we have an opportunity with our falls that we have, with our downtown, with our parks. We have an opportunity. People already come here for things, but what other ideas do you have around tourism and travel and hospitality? And then lastly, childcare, after-school programming, and early learning. What ideas do you have around that? And if you got other ideas, feel free to submit those as well. But you go on cityofelyria.org, click Hackathon, and submit your ideas. Then on October 22nd, what you'll do is you'll sign up for a team to work on that idea. You'll look at the list of ideas and say, hey, I really like that idea around green space development. I really think we need to have this sort of park in this neighborhood. I want to be involved in that. So you'll sign up on Friday. On Saturday, you'll spend that time with a mentor, really working on that idea, fleshing it out, creating it in more of a proposal format. And then on Sunday, you'll present that idea. And then the judges over the course of the week will look at your proposal, look at your presentation, and then each team will get $1,000 as a grand prize. That's courtesy of Windstream, who's sponsoring this hackathon. And then our goal from that is to actually take these ideas and bring them to market, like bring them now to community development and say, hey, this idea aligns with the American Rescue Plan. Is it fundable? Is it doable? Some of it may not even require funding. Some of it may just require organizing it. How can we support the leader organizing it? But our hope is that out of this, we'll come up with a lot of innovative ideas, not only from the city standpoint, but we're inviting people from all around the world. Today we had a conference call with somebody in Northern England who was going to be participating in the hackathon. And so they're studying Elyria, looking at our profile, and then going to be helping us to come up with ideas and solutions for our city. So, again, that's our commitment to try to engage with you all civically and be a part of transforming this city. And I think, again, we have a unique opportunity. But I'm at the point, I had gray hairs here. I had to get my hair cut yesterday where I'm ready to move forward. I'm really ready. I'm tired of waiting. I'm sorry. I've been patient. I took my first year to learn the job. I learned it under the pandemic, didn't ruffle the feathers too much. 2021, we've been patient, but we're pretty confident in the people we have around us. We're pretty confident in the staff that they're competent, and we're ready to move. We're ready to roll. And we're just asking the city council, we're asking for our community, come alongside us, trust us, hold us accountable. We're not asking for anybody not to hold us accountable to the results that we're committing to, but allow us to fail. Allow us to fail. That's one thing I've tried to tell when we've had conversations with the law department about things that, whether they're legal or strategic, I've often echoed. I said, allow us to fail. Give us the same opportunity to fail you've given previous administrations. Give us the opportunity. And we've been patient. We haven't been loud. We've taken a lot of blows behind the scenes, but it's been at the expense of progress, and we're ready for progress. And so with that being said, I'm going to open it up for some questions because I know we said we'd be done by 6:45 or so, and then we have a council meeting tonight, so we'll open it up to questions. Can we start with there, and then we'll come to council next? Any questions from any residents? And I don't see too many residents. I see some staff folks. Yeah, Mr. Lowry. Yep. Which is jobs that expanded. Yep. Yeah, so my jobs comment was on the crane and Invacare, so you did hear about that, and I mentioned that today. And again, so when our economic strategy around 2025 jobs by 2025 was three things: building a city for entrepreneurs, which I've admitted we've fallen short on. We got to figure out this entrepreneurship piece. Attracting employers to our workforce, so investing in our workforce. We stood up the Skill City Initiative, and so and the key challenge is, how do we promote? How do we get the word out that, hey, if you're an Elyria resident going down an in-demand pathway, you can go to community college free. We have to get that message out there more to invest in our workforce as a way to attract. And then the last piece was growing the companies that already exist here. So we've made a concerted effort to make sure we're doing constant outreach. The leadership with Don is doing constant outreach to the Invacares of the world, the Cranes of the world, the Ridges of the world, et cetera. But here's the idea I have. And keep in mind, the other crazy part is one of the biggest challenges companies have for growth right now is people not working. And I can't do anything about that. I got some ideas around it. It's kind of radical ideas to get people to go, want to work at places. But that's a real challenge we have right now. Would you agree that people, and it's challenging for me to address that. But I do have an idea. I believe, so in the city of Elyria, we have around 5,000 people that live here and work here. We have, the last numbers I looked, we had about 18,000 people who live here and work outside of here. And I believe we had around or 17 that live here and leave out, and 18 or 19 that don't live in Elyria that work in Elyria. So here's my idea, and this is an area where residents can really make this happen. This new idea of remote work. If we can get our residents empowered to work remotely, which means, you're sitting at your home, or we have a computer lab area here where you can come and work on your job from that computer lab. If we can convert and get, I'll say 2,000 people to start to consider working remotely, it's almost like we attracted 4 Bendix back to Elyria. And it doesn't require the building, the building cost that would have to come with an attraction of a company. It doesn't come with the expansion cost. It really just comes with having people trained on how to work remotely and aware of the remote jobs that are available. And it's right in front of us right now. But the challenge is that's like a foreign environment for many people working remotely. But that's where the market's going. The pandemic has kind of sped that work up. And now we have an opportunity, if we can get our residents to really consider remote work, which they may even get paid more, you have more time with your family. I think that can be a really transformational opportunity. That's why we've been investing in computer training in partnership with Goodwill, where we've been providing free computer training at South Rec, at West Rec. We want to continue doing that post-hackathon and really starting to invest in the awareness about remote work jobs so that people can take advantage of them. I have people in my family that I've sat down with and applied for remote work with. It's a whole different process. The interviews are virtual. It's different than what we're accustomed to, but it's possible. You mentioned the economy. There's two other things I didn't mention that I want to make sure I get to. One is Midway Mall. So with Midway Mall, as many of you know, there's 3 owners there. You got Johnny K's, you got the group out of Jersey that purchased this on an online auction, purchased a lot of the mall for $4.25 million, and then you have ICP, these folks who really know what they're doing, but they only own the Sears building and the Dillard's building. And so a part of what we've been doing as a city staff is really working with to get a single owner of the mall, and we feel like we're close to it. We have another meeting with them tomorrow. But again, this is an opportunity that I feel like, one of the things I said during the campaign was that the city should have purchased the mall when it was being auctioned for $4.25 million, and I still believe that. I still believe we should have purchased the mall. I get why we didn't, because it wasn't in our forte. We haven't done anything like that before. But the cost that we're paying right now for not having an active mall is costing us more than the 4.25 it would have, and we could have gotten it into the hands of the developer who could have done it. But again, it's this fear we have of risk that we have to overcome if we're going to actuate, and actualize opportunities. And so with the mall now, I'm super excited because we've had some off-the-record conversations with council, and they're like, yo, we're in full support in getting this thing developed. We have a great developer that's interested. It's just a matter of trying to nudge this other group out of there, who, by the way, I'm not going to throw them under the bus, but yeah, we just got to get this other group out of the way so that those folks who know what they're doing can get full control of the mall, so that we can see it develop. We have a major tenant lined up already to be in the mall, who's ready to go. And so we just got to get these folks out the way to get there. So again, back to the jobs piece. We got to figure out this entrepreneurship piece. My goal coming in the office was creating this incubator out of the Powerhouse Gym building, but unfortunately, some things out of my control happened where I wasn't able to create that innovation center there. And so we had to take a step back. We had the players lined up: Jumpstart, Small Business Development Center, Chamber of Commerce, the Community Foundation. We had all the players lined up. We had the state involved from a capital budget standpoint. But everything happens for a reason. The pandemic. If the pandemic would have happened during that, it might not have been successful. So I'm not harboring on that. But again, the other 2 pieces, attracting employers to our workforce, is still real, and we need to encourage people to take advantage of that Skill City promise we have with LCC and re-enroll in school and get an in-demand job. and we need to continue to build relationships with our employers here and make sure we're constantly knocking on their door and celebrating them while they're here. You know, one of the fights we had to try to keep Bendix, it was interesting because, you know, we hadn't been recognizing our local businesses. So it was like, yeah, now that I'm leaving, you want to appreciate me sort of deal. It's like, now that I'm on my way out, thanks. You know, so we got to make sure we're being more proactive. So I'm excited that, you know, Dana's going to be helping us out with that work and, you know, with Dawn's leadership, keeping those relationships with those companies so we can continue to promote them while they're still here and keep them here. Yep. And Councilwoman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. So you mentioned the roads in our process, and we've always done it that way. But having said that, we are more than willing to learn a new process. We're happy to work with Mr. Snyder and Ms. McKillop to figure out a better way that we can get these roads done faster, because they should have been done earlier in the summer. I agree with you. So we're happy. If there's a better way, show us. We'll do that.
Yep.
And if you have an additional $1.5 million,
yeah,
let us know. We can spend it.
Yeah. So So I got the finance report right here. So right now,
can I have it?
Yeah, our general fund, we have $8.6 million in our general fund. For issue 6 funding, we have $6.9 million. Then this is carryover money. This is money we got in the bank. So $6.9 million. And then American Rescue Plan, we have $9.3 million. We know we've allocated some of that over the past. I think we've allocated about $2 million of that. So really more about $6 or $5 million left there. So the resources are there. The resources are there. And I'm not saying desert the old process. I think the old process is, I'm saying both. And most of the things I propose are not an either or. I'm always trying to find the and. It's this and. So let's keep that process, but let's add another process on top of this and get some roads on the front end right now. Let's make that decision now, and so that we can get on the front end of things for next year. So, yeah, Councilman Sillett, thank you, Councilwoman Mitchell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. First thing, congratulations on the new baby. Awesome for you. To address an issue regarding jobs, and something great is happening right now. If you start at Taylor Street at the North Ridgeville border and head towards Elyria, all the way down across Route 57 and down till the end to Ridge Tool and back all the way up to Diamond Products, every single business has a help wanted sign. We're hiring. We're busy. Please come work for us. And one thing that started about a year ago is the infrastructure job training that we started, and that was your idea, and I commend you on that, of teaching our residents work skills. And we're blessed, number one, to have these jobs available, but we need to fill them with Elyria residents. And I don't know if there's a way to make that program go faster and put these groups together. Yeah. But it's a good problem to have right now, and I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, Councilman. I think the other piece that's, and I'm glad Marcus is here. So Marcus Madison, our former councilman here, recently reached out about Afghan refugees who are coming to our area, and they're going to be looking for work. So yes, our top priority would be Elyria resident and that Elyria job. But as I mentioned, the numbers are 17,000 of us leave this city to go to work every day. You know, there's another 18,000 who don't live here who come here. So the numbers, and there's only 5,000 or so of us who actually live here and work here. So the numbers tell us the likelihood of it being a Elyria resident, we're kind of swimming upstream. So we need to figure out how do we attract talent to the city, you know, and I think it'll come through some of these initiatives working with Marcus, but also getting our image and our brand of what's available here in our city out there to say, hey, there's opportunity in Elyria, come, and trying to fill those jobs that way. But again, I wish I could control this dynamic we have right now in the economy with jobs. It's a mystery. I don't think anybody has it figured out. You know, people blamed it on the unemployment and said, oh, once people's unemployment gets cut off, they'll go back to work. I think they see that wasn't the whole picture. And I think it's a lot more complicated. I think people are reassessing work period and why work and where do I want to work? Do I want a dead-end job or do I want a career? So I think it's still shaking out. But I think this remote work opportunity is something that we know people have gravitated toward. And I don't want Illyrians to be left out on that. And we could also face negative implications of that. We're fortunate that we have a lot of jobs that require you to be on site and working on site. But for some of our employers, they do have employees that they no longer need to have them in the office anymore and can be working from another location. So we might see some of those impacts as well. Yeah. Another update I wanted to give is just on, and I'll come back to you next, is on the CDC. You know, this again is another opportunity. It's not the silver bullet, but this is an opportunity for residents to get involved in community development in our city, and it can be driven from a private sector, public-private sector sort of investment. And I'm excited that organization is now incorporated, and they have a board. They had their first board meeting. Is that this? Oh, no. I thought it was this. I was like, we got to call her. Call her. Come in. Oh, yep. So where was that? I'm sorry, that threw me off. What was I talking about? No, the CDC. So yeah, that's going to be, you're going to continue to see that develop. We have a great opportunity. We had a call earlier this afternoon about getting some more affordable housing developed. You know, one of the projects that I'm really impressed by, when Mayor Grace was in office, they created those year 16 homes on the West River Bend. And I know there was a lot of fear and skepticism. Would the people keep up with those homes, and what would they look like? Mike Griffin, again, sat on the board of New Sunrise Property when they developed those, and we have to be impressed with how those homes have been maintained, and those people are going to be transitioning to home ownership. We want to see more of that in the city, and so I'm excited about the CDC and the development there. They put a grant application in to Nord Family Foundation. We're hoping to receive that. And again, that's why we need this optimism, because people are listening. When we're out there selling our city, they're also saying, well, I heard this council person say this, and I'm not sure, Mayor, that you think that you have the support for this that you do have, or that the city has the support that you think they have. And that actually came up with the CDC in terms of we had a big donor that we were asking to support it, and they said, well, we want to know if the city council supports it. And we said, oh, no, there were just some initial concerns, but they support it. But that's a good piece that we have with the CDC, and looking forward to seeing the growth and development of that organization. The other piece that I neglected to mention, I want to make sure I get to, is body cams. So for the past, when I came in office, that was one of the questions on the debate stage, was about body cameras, and did we support body cams? And of course, we support body cams, but we decided that our first year we would focus on training and getting our officers ready for the body cams and how to use them, and also getting them ready just to because all body cams are going to do is show you what happens, so we wanted to make sure what folks, were getting the training so that they would feel like they weren't just being thrown into the fire. Imagine right now, I'll just say, hey, walk around with a body cam. It would freak you out, like every dog, so getting people ready for that. But we're there. We're at the point. We believe that we have a set of presentations set up. The council members are going to be involved in the committee. Law department is, that we'll have the body cams by the beginning of next year. We'll have them, ready to roll, and you'll see our officers not only body cams but dash cams. And we recognize that that's an important part of law enforcement. But we also recognize that building those community relationships between the police and the community is equally important, because cameras are just going to show you what's there. We need to do the work to make sure that bridge is built between police officers. And, I think that comes from, I was playing basketball before the pandemic. I was playing basketball with the cops, once a week, and we had a chance to build relationships. And the goal was to bring other community people into that space so they can just start to build some familiarity with one another, so that when they see each other out in the community, it's not this stranger interaction. It's, hey, Josh, come here. It's like, oh, man, come on, officer, such and such. It's like, hey, why are you out here doing that? As opposed to two strangers interacting for the first time in a real intense situation, how those can escalate. So, we want to get back to that community police relationship building. I know Jason hates to hear this thing about blaming the pandemic, but it does play an impact in bringing people together like that, because everybody's like, well, should we be bringing people in the same space? Should we be interacting? But I think we're at a place now where we can wear our mask and get people in the same space together again. So, Jason, go ahead. That's not my piece. You know, that's something that engineering is really helping to spearhead from an operational standpoint. The CMG is the central maintenance garage, and yes, y'all don't have any comment on that. Any other questions? I know we're getting close to council meeting, but again, I thank y'all, and I want to make sure that I always provide an open door to answer your questions. I want you to have accurate information. I want you to get the information from the horse's mouth. I want you to be able to, not just for the yes man of it, to challenge us on our ideas, to challenge us to work harder, challenge us to fight harder, challenge us to do what we need to do. We want that, we embrace that, but we want you to have accurate information in that as well. We want a fair assessment of the city as well, and then we need the support of City Hall. We need the support of council to really move this thing forward. And I feel like I have a pulse on what the people want, and the people want us to speed up. They feel like progress is moving a little too slow, and they want us to speed up. And I'm all about speeding up, you know, and doing it safely, not crashing, not being reckless, but just being a little more decisive, and also being a little more courageous and bold to move the city forward. So I appreciate the opportunity to lead the city, be your mayor. I love my job. I hate the politics, and I hope to continue to make the city great and continue to develop the city, make those who voted for me proud, but make you all as a city proud as I'm out there representing you all. And that's why I always try to keep a smile, always try to stay positive, because I know I'm representing you all. And I take that very serious, that I represent you all. And I appreciate y'all time here tonight, and we'll get over to City Council. But thank y'all.